not having to get loans for college, and not having debt after getting a degree. According to studyineurope.eu, there are 13 countries in Europe that have this reality. Their colleges don't charge tuition. Public colleges in the United States should not charge tuition. This morning we will look at how many European countries can afford free tuition colleges, go through some of the benefits of not having to pay tuition, and see the start of President Obama's America's College Promise plan. Now, let's look at just how European countries can afford tuition-free universities. There are a few ways tuition-free colleges have become realities in Europe. European schools typically don't have formal programs for sports. In an article on Europe's club-oriented sports, Stephanie Lowe wrote, quote, "Youth sports in Europe exist mostly in the form of independent clubs that serve the entire community," unquote. Instead of colleges having elaborate sports teams to fund, Europe relies on outside clubs formed by the community. These clubs are open to all ages. Ollie Templeton, an English soccer player, said in the article, quote, "In England, you kind of have to make a decision of whether you want to go down the school or the athletic route. There's two separate routes, not really one that works with the other," unquote. Think about it. Is college a place to just play sports or to further education? European nations generally have a higher tax rate than what we have in the United States. For example, CNN marked Germany's tax rate at 49.3% of labor income in 2013. It is important to note, however, that Germany is one of the leaders in the European Union, and thus the nation has had to help other countries' economies during the recession in Europe. Also, Germans are committed to the idea of free education, and according to CNN, when a fee was introduced in 2006, many German states objected and reverted to free tuition. Tuition-free colleges in Europe are a possibility in part because the number of people admitted is lower than what we have in the US, according to attn.com. Since we have seen how European countries have been able to afford tuition-free college, let's move on to what the benefits of not paying tuition could be. There are some positive side effects of students not having to pay tuition. This section of the speech is mainly based on possible sociological outcomes. Marie Scheneman, sociology professor at NCC, supports the idea that if college students did not have to pay tuition, then they would have more money to spend rather than using their earnings to pay back loans, and thus they would stimulate the economy. Continuing this line of thought, these students would be able to buy and have complete ownership of cars and houses sooner. The overall amount of personal debt would be reduced. As adults, former students would be able to save more money for retirement as well. One could predict that if tuition for colleges was free in the US, we would have a more educated society. More people would be able to afford to attend college, and thus more people would have the opportunity to learn beyond their high school education. The Georgetown University Center on Education and the Workforce predicts, quote, "By 2020, 65% of the nation's jobs will require post-secondary education and training," unquote. We have reflected on what benefits may be had. So now we'll look at Obama's plan for tuition-free college. America's College Promise is a great first step towards free tuition public colleges. In an article by Ronald Roach from Diverse Issues in Higher Education, Roach details President Obama's plan for tuition-free community college. The plan is called America's College Promise. Students in certain programs, yet to be listed, who are going to college at least part-time, have a minimum 2.5 GPA, and continue making progress towards completing their program will receive 2 years tuition-free community college. The program would be funded by an increase in taxes. Roach wrote, if the 10-year plan were enacted, roughly 9 million students would be covered by the plan. This morning, we have looked at how some European countries can afford tuition-free colleges, visited some of the benefits of not paying tuition, and seen the ideas of the America's College Promise plan. Tuition should not be charged for public colleges in the US. Knowing that there is a trend of tuition-free colleges that has been started, the US may not be too far behind. Maybe one day, students won't have to worry about loans